record to this computer. Okay. And now I'll admit everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Vinicius. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. So thanks so much for attending our session today. My name's Simon Terrington. I've met many of you before. We're just going to give it another minute or so, guys, before we start, and then I'll make the introductions. So we'll be back with you very shortly. So, good morning, good afternoon. It's now 4 p.m. UK time. So, in the interest of time, we're going to make a start. Of course, if any of your colleagues would like to come, or maybe they're arriving a few minutes late, we are going to share a video of this session. It is being recorded, so we can send it out to all participants. Thanks so much for taking the time. We really appreciate it. And of course, this session today is, as the title suggests, focused on Mexico. It's called Mexico Momentum. The idea is that by the end of today,
Minister, the Director of Ministry of Education.
Can we mute everyone? Vinicius. Thanks, guys. Sorry about that. So the idea is that by the end of the session today, we'll get practical advice and tips on how to attract more Mexican students to your institution. Now, today, I'm delighted to have two of our fantastic team members with me, both from Mexico. Now, they're Diana and Scarlet. So Diana and Scarlet are just going to introduce themselves to you.
Hi, everyone. I am very happy to be here. My name is Scarlet Ramirez. I am the Latin America representative for the University of Well. I'm actually based in Querétaro, very close to Mexico City, and we are one of the most important cities now in the Bajío region.
Hi, everyone. I'm really happy to be here too, and I am Diana Dzib. I'm the regional representative for LATAM at the University of Hull, and I'm based in Puebla. It's nice to meeting you, everyone, virtually.
Okay, thanks, Diana and Scarlett. And once again, thanks for participating in this webinar. So it's going to take the kind of form of a podcast for anyone that attended our Brazilian webinar, Brazil Building Blocks. It's going to be a similar kind of scenario where I ask questions to Diana and Scarlett. And then we're going to try and keep within the time frame of 40 minutes. And at the end, we'll have 5 or so minutes for questions. So what we'll do is we'll hold questions, but at the end, I'll look on if you could write the questions down in the message box, and at the end, then I'll obviously refer to those, and that will give you more help and support. Because I'm sure where someone's asking one question, then others are thinking about the same kind of question. So, okay, without further ado, at the end, we've got, as many of you will know, we have, to go alongside this, we've produced a Mexico Momentum report. Now, if you could, for those of you who'd like that, if you could fill out the feedback form, which would really help us. And then, of course, we're more than happy to send you, for those that don't have it, send you a copy of this report. So, without further ado, we're ready to kick off. And the first section is understanding the Mexico market. Now, on this PowerPoint here, you can see the kind of types of areas for questions we'll be asking. So the first one is to Scarlett. So Mexico is often grouped with Latin America, but culturally it operates differently. From your experience, Scarlett, what makes Mexico unique, and how does this influence how students and families make decisions about studying abroad?
Thank you, Simon. Well, I think it's very important to outline how big Mexico is. We actually have 32 states, and all states are focused in different industries. For example, we have Monterrey, Nuevo León, which is actually one of the states that are more focused in manufacturing and business. But also we have states in the south like Yucatan, which is more focused in tourism and agriculture. So there is a lot of opportunities for different institutions. Also, it's very important to know that Mexicans are very attached to each other. So we have a huge family culture in the decision-making process of the students. The students are actually looking into local opportunities. So for example, if you have a student from Nuevo León, they might be looking for business or manufacturing courses, and then the family will be taking part of that process of whether they should go to a different country or which type of program they would like to go in terms for the students to go back to the local industries in the state where they come from. So it's very important to understand that and to take the family very serious and involved throughout the whole process. Sometimes if you take the process by yourself, it's very unlikely that the family feels apart from it, and that could impact the decision-making of the student.
Thank you, Scarlett. Fantastic. So the next question is Diana, to Diana. And Diana, this is about student demand from Mexico and subject trends. So based on a recent enrollment data analysis and what we're seeing on the ground, what study levels and subject areas are currently most in demand amongst Mexican students?
Thank you, Simon. So according to our recent EdCo data, Mexico is now considered our second most important market in LATAM, right after Brazil. We see a clear trend where 60% of students want postgraduate programs, and the other 40% demand for more undergraduate programs. Business is still the leader with around 26% inquiries, but subjects such as artificial intelligence, data science, healthcare, and psychology are growing fast. In Mexico, applications are split 50-50 between agents and direct interest. So, for my perspective and recommendation, a multi-channel strategy is the best way to succeed in the Mexican market. You will need a strong online presence, but also you will need the help of your professional local agents and advisors. Having a representative, a regional representative is also a key. Because in Mexico, people really value these face-to-face events and fairs because that builds this human connection that Mexican families need to feel more confident.
Thanks, Deanna. Fantastic answer. So moving on to, of course, cost sensitivity and an area which, of course, we all understand is important in Mexico, scholarships and financing. This question is again addressed to Scarlett. So Scarlett, studying abroad is a major investment for Mexican families. How important are scholarships, flexible payment plans, or funding opportunities in influencing decisions? Can you give us some examples of the type of kind of financial support that's available? Thank you, Scarlett.
Thanks, Simon. Yeah, costs are very important in Mexico, and something also I really want to highlight is it's very unlikely that Mexican families will take a loan in order to support the financial situation of the students. So they're looking for opportunities such as scholarships or any funding institutions that are available in Mexico. So in Mexico, we have governmental institutions such as FUNED, CICETIC, or even local institutions like Juventudes Guanajuato that provides financial support or scholarship to students. But it's very important to also know that these institutions are more focused in master programs, okay? But all the scholarships that can be available through universities abroad are very important for Mexican students. An example is one of the scholarships that we have at WELL, which is a very prestigious scholarship. It's a 42,000 Canadian dollars. And last year, our first Mexican student won it. And that also helped to build this interest of students knowing that they can have some financial support, not only by the Mexican institutions that we have, but also by the scholarship that the universities provide. Flexible payments as well are a huge advantage to Mexican families that might have different times depending on their industries that they work or maybe their financial situation. And it's also very important to clarify the total cost of the program, plus the living costs that the students will have to face when they move abroad.
Thanks, Scarlett. And I feel like one of the kind of issues that we have in many institutions is it's not clear on the kind of tuition and what the students are expected to pay. So what really works, Scarlett, and you alluded to it there, was a kind of an overview. Okay, these are going to be the kind of cost of living. This is going to be, because something else that kind of is cultural in Latin America is that students are accustomed to paying for programs on a monthly basis. So it's not like kind of, if you look at the UK, USA, Canada, Australia, or other destinations where we tend to quote annually or by semester or by module. So it's really important to be clear about those and to have them kind of upfront on the website. So thank you, Scarlett. So moving on to employability, I know we're doing a race around, but we're really happy to take questions afterwards. And of course, our aim is to provide as much information to all of you as possible. So employability and value proposition. So career outcomes are a key driver, as we know. Diana, this question's for Diana, for Mexican students and parents. What messages around employability, post-study work, internships resonate with Mexican students, and how should this be communicated? Thank you, Diana.
Thank you, Simon. So for Mexican students, studying abroad, it's a major investment, and they really look for universities that have and offer the right tools and connections. For example, I always mention and highlight that the University of Hull is located in a port city. So this is perfect for logistics, which is a high demand area in Mexico. Also, another great case that I give like an example is about a recent graduate student, Daniela Vega, and she studied digital marketing at the University of Hull, but she also worked part-time at H&M. And this experience really gave her the boost that she needed to find a job after graduation. So we do not promise jobs, but we do provide the information and the links to the industry. For example, like placement years or study plus work opportunities in the UK. So it is very helpful when universities mention these work opportunities and benefits clearly. Regarding the future of the students, sometimes in some students, they want to return to Mexico to work in their family businesses, while others also look for opportunities in the local job market. So what they really value the most is that study abroad really give them the international experience, new skills, knowledge, and global perspective that makes them more competitive in the job market.
Thank you, Diana. That was very helpful. So moving on to agencies, partners, and local influence. As we know, agencies play a key role in Mexico. Now, this is $1 million question, I suppose. How do we find good agencies? And what are the most effective ways institutions can build strong, trusted and long-term partnerships with Mexico agents? And that's over to you, Scarlett.
Thank you, Simon. Well, yes, agencies take a huge part in Mexican market. Actually, we have data from EdCo that 50% of the applicants actually apply through an agency. So it's important to know that agencies are a key element when we are looking to recruit the students. So in Mexico, it's very important to know the agencies that we have available, because some of them only work for a specific destination, such as Canada, UK, the USA, or any others, but also sometimes they promote specific programs, such as undergrad, language school, master programs. So it's important to know who are we working with. Also, another thing that is very important in Mexican agents is presence. And what we're talking about this is to actually start building this relationship of trust, reply quick, try to connect with them not only via email or video chat. If we have the possibility to see them face to face, that actually adds a huge value in the building relationship, but also invest into them. And how can we do this? Like attending any events that agencies are organizing, or maybe create an event with them to work alongside. This will build trust, and agencies will understand more the institutions that we are trying to promote with them. And also they will have the institutions present. So when they have a student that is interested to go to a specific location or to go to specific programs, they can remember the institution by themselves because we have built these relationships and we are present in their mind.
Thanks, Scarlett. I would add that also it's really important, as you alluded to, Scarlett, creating and maintaining these relationships. It's absolutely key. And I asked a few agencies actually recently about this, and an agency said, look, we really appreciate it when institutions kind of make the effort to have a communications plan and to schedule in monthly appointments, monthly meetings, monthly catch up, really, to kind of go through kind of potentially the applicants or students who have then got an offer letter, what the status is, but to build those relationships, because ultimately it's about trust. And we feel that agencies represent a lot of institutions. So another question we often get asked is, how do we make headway? How do we become front of mind with agencies? Whilst it's not simple, it really revolves around those that work that you kind of put into ensuring this agency has the information, and to make it easily saleable. Because something else that comes across is, we were talking about pricing before, but if it's not easy to understand and if a proposition isn't right, then agencies will of course struggle, as will other partners. So it's about getting that strong proposition fit for market and the fit for the Mexican market. So look at kind of 5 or 6 key areas, which hopefully today will help on how you can base your proposition. So that was excellent. Thanks, Scarlett. So student ambassadors, again, student ambassadors are really important to the decision-making process. Now, more than marketing materials often. So what's the most effective way institutions can involve ambassadors to support student recruitment in Mexico? And that's for Diana.
Thank you, Simon. So in Mexico, trust is everything. Our EdCo data shows that ambassadors help the most during the stages of lead generation and offer holders. They are also great for creating real content. For example, at State University, ambassadors record videos on campus to show their daily life. And this is very authentic and helps students to identify themselves because they imagine themselves studying in that university. Another great example is we also have the case from Ontario Tech University. An undergraduate student was undecided about enroll in the Ontario Tech University, but after a one-to-one webinar with an ambassador, she felt more confident and decided to move forward and enroll. For the Mexican market, partnering with ambassadors is really crucial for webinars, social media content, and Q&A sessions. It can be really effective. When an applicant student hears the experience or the real story from a peer, they lose their fear and feel more confident, and normally they enroll.
Thanks so much, Deanna. It's interesting because, there's extremes, there's different kind of ways in which we involve student ambassadors. And there was a university that had an excellent student ambassador and used to fly them back to Peru to help with events and activities. And of course, that is, in fact, a fantastic way to kind of work with student ambassadors. And of course, going back to the University of Guelph, Scarlet, I actually worked with the University of Guelph a few years ago as the account manager, and we had a fantastic student called Manuela, who I remember, and she came on the pre-departures. She built up WhatsApp relationships with all of the kind of offer holders, and it was really crucial. And conversion was fantastic. So I think that sometimes student ambassadors, in our experience, are underutilized because what happens is they may be kind of on the end of a phone, or they're kind of, sometimes respond to messages. But if you get a student ambassador, that is peer to peer, as we know, and there's lots of companies that do this, but it's very, very powerful. So yeah, fantastic. So we're heading through at lightning speed, guys, but that means we'll have time for reflection at the end, which is absolutely fantastic. Plus we have a few areas to cover still. So communication and trust. Communication is, as we've already mentioned, key, of course, in any market. But what advice would you give to institutions, Scarlett, on building trust with students and parents? And if you could think of some examples, Scarlett, particularly around language, responsiveness, and long-term engagement. Thank you, Scarlett.
Thank you, Simon. Well, actually, something we have found is that we need communication in Spanish. Sometimes a lot of the universities give the information in English or in a specific language, and we assume that the students know this. But if we are remembering that family takes a huge important part of the decision making, some members of the family might not speak English. So for example, at the University of Well, we have information and brochures in Spanish, just basically tailored for parents. But also, for example, for Mexico, we have information just tailored by Mexico with requirements more focused in the Mexican market. And that really makes a huge difference when the parents are reading, or members of the family, or even the students sometimes, when they're reading the information in their own language, make a huge difference. Also, very clear information. We talk about the cost, where the location of the campuses, when are the starting dates, deadlines are important. So having all these very clear makes a huge important thing about in Mexico, because we like things to be transparent to make sure we can comply to them. But also quick response, make sure everybody who is involved in this decision or within the process know everything that is related to the process timelines, and also any updates that can be important, so they can know. So transparency, information in their own language, quick replies, and make sure everyone is involved make a huge difference. And also Mexicans, we really value this part, so I'm pretty sure this will help a lot to the institutions.
Yeah, and fantastic, Scarlett. If we can just add, because obviously our experience in Latin America, there's been a huge shift in bilingualism, and actually it's a generational shift. So if you look at kind of the students presently, they can speak good English, most of them, majority of them, because something Latin America has done very well. And I remember when I moved to Bogota in 2009, it was a big thing. It was kind of, okay, how does Colombia become more bilingual? And actually, as I've said, something Latin America did well was they put initiatives in place in Mexico, in Colombia, in Brazil to kind of improve, and other countries, of course, Peru, another big example, to improve English levels. At the same time, the IB schools, the number of IB schools spiraled. I mean, many of you that have visited Latin America, of course, have been to the IB schools. If we look at Peru, in the 2010s, there was a big increase in IB schools. This has all resulted in being a gap. The parents quite often may not have the language abilities, the students will. So what does this mean? This means that don't assume just because, and I think it's an assumption that we can make, don't assume that because students speak great English, the parents are going to be speaking great English as well, because that's not true at all. And so therefore, we need to have some materials in Spanish. Now, how far this goes is obviously dependent on the university, but our advice is always to have at least a PDF, like a 2-page, a 4-page, with key information, bullet points on kind of, okay, the proposition, what are the 5 key differentiators of your institution, and then get that translated. Of course, it's something we can do, but I'm sure in-house you'd have the ability to get that translated. Be careful as well, because of course we have many. It's funny because we were talking to a colleague that had just been to Uruguay, and many of the, how would you say this, colloquialisms, I think is the word, in Spanish it's dichos, expressions are different between countries. So to get something translated from Spanish from Spanish Spain, it might not resonate or work in Colombia, Mexico, other Spanish-speaking countries. So it's really important to understand that as well. So that makes sense. And of course, if anyone has any questions, we're probably going to be finished in 5 or so minutes. So of course, if anyone has any questions, we'd just love to help. Now, Diana, before I move on to the last question, which is almost like tips and your advice, do either of you, Scarlett or Diana, do you think is there anything that you feel you've missed that we could add to the conversation? Or you think it's all been covered?
Well, I would like to add that just going back to that, Mexico is such a huge country, to actually really do research about the opportunities that Mexico has. Some institutions specialize in different things, and I think there is market for everyone. Don't always go for the big cities, because you might be losing other great states and cities that are actually more related to what your institution is offering. So very important to look to all the different markets. It's very, of course, common to go to big cities like Mexico City, Guadalajara, or Monterrey. But in my experience working with wealth, I have found one of my biggest market is Puerto Vallarta, which I never will expect, or other cities like Mérida or even Querétaro. So look really more deeply into Mexico and all the industries that we have, because we have many, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna find more markets at only the main cities.
That's excellent. That's really excellent advice. I feel far too many of our institutions will just focus on Mexico City, and then that becomes very congested. Now, whilst majority of applicants may be from Mexico City, there are some great niche areas. And again, depending on your portfolio, Scarlett, and again, you can always ask us advice on this. But I was surprised that Mexico's 32 states, and each of the states, of course, has their own culture, very different. And again, we tend to forget this. It's a huge country. So that was excellent, Scarlett. Anything else, Diana, before we move on to final question?
Yes, the same as Scar. Just target your audience depending of the area of specialization on the city you are going to recruit the students. It always helps to really segment your audience, because each university offers different things, different programs. So it's really good to have this focus in which city you are going to recruit and what is the high demand area of that city.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Deanna, and thank you, Scarlett. So we're on to the kind of, well, we have got another section, which is the report, but we're on to strategic takeaways and closing. So both Scarlett and Deanna, you could help with this. What do you feel if there was just one thing, and I feel like we're putting you on the spot, so I apologize. What is there one thing that institutions could do over the next 12 months or so to start attracting more interest from Mexican students? So I'll go with you first, Deanna, and then Scarlett.
So to close, my best advice for institutions that want to grow in the Mexican market is to build this professional trust with your partners. In Mexico, recruitment is about relationships more than a transactional situation. So it is important to plant the seed with regular communication and really local support. Your partners need to feel that you are there for them. So when they feel connected to you, they become your best promoters, your best ambassadors. So in this market, staying connected and being present is what really creates a real momentum. Thank you.
Thank you. And Scarlett?
I think one of my biggest advice or takeaways is to actually celebrate Mexican culture. Mexicans, we are so proud of being Mexicans, and actually seeing universities that are interested in Mexico or Mexican students actually drives the attention of the students of new opportunities that they might never know. As you know, we are a country that is very close to the USA, and probably a lot of the students are looking into that. But maybe if we are seeing universities paying attention to our country or to Mexican students, students might look to different opportunities going to countries that they will never expect. Also, I think something that I would like to embrace is that Mexican students are a quality students, and you will see this from other institutions. All the Mexican students that go there goes because they are high quality students. They're really good performance. They're working hard. So I think like if you can be sure that investing in Mexico is going to bring not only diversity, but also you're going to bring quality in your institutions.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thank you so much, Scarlett. I mean, I would say that was key. And going back to it's all about the kind of work that you kind of undertake and the development of relationships, as Deanna said, and an understanding of the Mexican culture, because simply just going to Mexico and talking about the benefits of your institution is not going to resonate, because it has to be integrated. We all believe, of course, that we work for fantastic institutions, and I'm sure we do. However, it's just not that it's kind of an integrated about Mexican success stories, an understanding of culture, an understanding of that the students will feel welcome. Something I'd just like to add actually is that we've done some analysis recently on students who started in September 2025. And the Mexican students, that, as Deanna suggested earlier on, Mexico was the second biggest market after Brazil globally for EdCo LATAM Consulting. We work with partners in, of course, Canada, the UK, and Europe. And effectively 100% visa compliance for Mexican students that went to the UK. So Deanna was saying that quality students, which they really are. So thanks so much. We haven't finished yet, but thank you so much for listening to the first part of our session. Now, if you could click on this QR code, that would be much appreciated. I'm hoping it's working. So if you could complete this, that'd be fantastic. And those that complete the QR, those that complete this form, we will send this comprehensive Mexico Momentum report that we've had produced, which will help support what we've been discussing today. So I'm going to leave this on for a couple of minutes. Now, can anyone, I'm not sure if Vinicius is with us still, or Deanna, because I can't see the questions. I've got the big screen on. Are there any questions that people have written in?
We do have 2 questions.
Okay, we have 2 questions. Fantastic. Yeah, perhaps read the first question, Deanna. I apologize because I've just got the QR code in front of me and I can't see the question. So yeah, what's the first question?
The first one is from Samuel Whiteside, University of Lancashire.
Central Lancashire. Hi, Sam. Yeah. I hope you're doing well. It's lovely to hear from you.
So Samuel is asking, have you noticed with the recent cartel violence, a change in mentality with families? There has been a clear shift with the US in terms of their immigration policies, but wonder if local issues affect decision making.
Well, fantastic. Do you both want to answer that? I mean, it's a great question, Sam. And yeah, I mean, Scarlett, how would you answer that? What do you feel about Mexicans and decision making given kind of the recent kind of issues in Mexico?
Yeah, I think like what happened in the last few weeks was a really huge shocking thing. And of course, I don't want to sugarcoat this, but of course, news make things even bigger than potentially are. Going back to this, Mexico is a huge country, and some of the areas that were shown in the TV or in the news might not be a huge market for students going, so might not be a huge change. Also, something I would like to make a highlight is that Mexico is a little bit unpredictable country in terms of recruitment. Last year, because political situation in Mexico, I thought Mexican recruitment will be very low, but actually I have the highest application in Mexico for wealth. So sometimes we cannot really predict that. The current situation might be a reason for students to explore different opportunities, like going to UK, going to Europe, going to Canada. And yeah, the situation with the USA actually has changed the students to look to different opportunities. So I would say, yeah, it can affect on the destination of the students where they're going and also looking to different opportunities. So, but I don't think it will impact in a negative way of the students not actually taking the decision to go abroad to study.
Thanks, Scarlett. That's a great answer. What were the, I think there's a couple more questions, Deanna. So can you read, are you okay to read the next question?
Yes. Then Fiona comment that is a very interesting question. How is it impacting recruitment and travel options? And also she mentioned one thing I have noticed: once a Mexican student makes up their mind to join a study program, it is a definite decision.
Definitely. Yeah, definite decision. Okay. I mean, Fiona, thanks very much. It's lovely to see you as well. And I would just support what Scarlett said, that you're 100% right in my experience. Once Latin American students, is just not Mexicans really, but once they're very honorable with their decision making, they don't flip and flop. I mean, I think it takes time to get them to commit, because of course we all know there's lots of different options, but in my experience it's very rare that when a student has made their choice that they actually back out and they actually decide not to go once they've made that commitment to actually apply. And again, you'll find generally Mexican students, it has changed somewhat recently because of course the ability to apply to multiple institutions has become easier. But having said that, once you have that commitment and once you build that relationship, Fiona, as you know, then they're very likely to go to that institution. And the loyalty with Latin American students in general and Mexicans is very high. So once you've kind of overcome these, the first kind of interactions, and once you've built that relationship, then that keeps getting stronger and stronger. So with these recent issues, we've had lots of issues, of course, because again, as Scarlett said, Latin America is volatile, unfortunately, politically, socially, and what then happens is Latin Americans are used to these situations because it happens, and actually, of course, that's a big pull factor for universities. But I doubt, both Sam and Fiona, I doubt that many students will be changing their mind once they've committed. And that's the way we would kind of look at that. So thank you. Are there any other questions, Deanna, Scarlett?
Not that I can see.
No.
So look, everyone, fantastic. Thanks so much for being with us this afternoon or this morning. And